Okay,
Right.
so my name is Theo. As you can see, I have a Dutch name. My parents are Dutch, and my father was a war prisoner in Indonesia, and then he was taken to Thailand to work on the Burma Railroad. And so after the war, my father was afraid the Russians would invade Europe, and then he decided to move to Brazil. So I was born in Brazil in '55, and my parents came to Brazil in '47. Uh, they had 6 children here in Brazil, and then the whole family moved back to Holland in 1967. So I have this Dutch Brazilian connection, but I've been in Brazil most of my life because I came back when I was 24 years, and the mother of my sons, she's Brazilian. My sons are Brazilians, so I'm pretty much linked to Brazil. Although I still have brothers and sisters in Holland and other relatives as well.
Yeah. And
And
of course,
so my father
you
passed
must
away in 19.
yeah,
Excuse me.
you must have followed Brazilian football then.
Yes, yeah. I'm not too much of a
Pele,
football fan, but
Pele,
I
Pele.
like it. I like it when Brazil plays as a country. But other than that,
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
like a particular team. Yeah.
No.
So my
No.
father, he
Carry on,
passed away in
Theo.
1981. Excuse me.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. So my father passed away in 1981, and actually, he never talked a lot about the war. My mother, he met my mother after the war, and my mother was in Holland during the war, and she talked a lot about the war. But my father, as a war prisoner, he never spoke too much about the war. And so I remember well when I asked him once if he thought a lot about the war. He looked at me quietly and he said, "There's not one single day that I do not think about the war." Yeah, but he would never share this with the family, with the kids. And I think reading this in books, apparently he wanted to spare the family from what he went through, so he didn't really want to talk too much about this. But after my father passed away, I was 24 years old or 25. I started to read a lot about the war prisoners, and that's how I got more interested in his history and everything that went on in Thailand. I was there once. I was there once for a business trip, and I took a weekend off to go to the railroad. And so, and I read a lot of books, Dutch books, and watched the movies, really to get to know more of his story, what really happened to him. And he also wrote an article after the war for a Dutch newspaper. And I think I will translate this to English and may I send this to you. So
Please.
describing his experience, what he went through.
Yeah.
It's a very short. It's a summary, but it highlighted more or less what he went through for the years that he has been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you get in touch with me about putting a page on for him on
Excuse
the
me?
Roll of Honor? Did you ask me to put a page in the Roll of Honor?
No, I don't think so.
No. Well, send me the article he wrote, and then I'll add him in the Roll of Honor with the article, so others can read it.
Okay.
That'd be
Yes,
good.
I have it in Dutch. I
Yeah.
have to translate, but I'll send it to you
Yes, please.
with
Yeah.
a picture of him.
Yeah, please. You said about talk and that. I mean, I don't think any of our fathers talked about it. They wouldn't talk about it. The only when I was young, I didn't really know much about it. It was only when I got older, Dad started talking to me about it and telling me what happened. Particularly when he came to live with us after Mum died. But the same with you, Tim and Sophie. They
Yeah,
didn't
no,
talk, did they?
no.
Right.
I think actually, I think that my dad, apart from fact, he didn't want us to be concerned. He didn't. He certainly didn't say anything. I mean, he used to come out with the odd phrase like, "I've had enough rice to last me his lifetime." When he wasn't eating, when we were stuffing into our rice pudding, and he wouldn't have any. And that's about all I really ever got. And I have to say, the more I think about it now, I don't know whether I was a bit naive because I knew he'd been a Japanese prisoner of war, and I knew about things, but I never sort of actually related him to the fact. Because I remember we were watching, there was in the 60s, what was it? There was a series about the Second World War. There was something like that. 20, there was about 20 episodes. 20 something episodes that started. It was history.
Was it about the women or?
No, it was a history type program.
Oh, the history of it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
Was it the World at War?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it probably was, Ray. But anyway, I remember Dad and I used to watch that avidly. We used to watch every single episode until it came to the Japanese ones. And he said to me, I'm not watching the next two. You watch them. And even watching them, I still didn't relate it quite back to Dad, however. But he said he wouldn't watch those two programs. And I think he avoided it, and things like that as well. But I certainly think he thought about it all the time.
I think I was at home when Tenku was on, and we did watch that. We all sat down and watched that. He was okay with that. But anything else come on, he didn't. I mean, the Bridge over the River Kwai, he absolutely hated it. But no, that was... He was very quiet about it. He didn't say a lot, but when he came to live with us, he did talk about it more.
But I think with my father, he actually went out of his way to avoid any contact, or anything to do with the Japanese.
Yeah, I think Dad's attitude was he wanted to get on with life, forget it, get on with life, and just forget it, and that's what he did.
Well, I think so, but he didn't want to get in a situation where it was, was brought to him or something, brought back, to the surface, which I think is completely.
Somebody mentioned on Facebook about the parties, the FIPO parties, and I can remember them. I mean, the FIPOs are absolutely brilliant at the parties, with us children. We had children Christmas parties every Christmas, and the FIPOs the games they used to play. They were absolutely brilliant. They loved kids, and they really put a lovely party together. I mean, Norfolks. We had a lot of Norfolks, of course, and Yarmouth. We had the 4th Norfolks mainly come from Yarmouth, and. We used to have, I would think there's a good 200, 250 kids at the parties. They're big parties. Anyway, Barbara, we've got Theo.
Hi, Theo.
Yeah.
Hi.
Right,
Theo's microphone isn't on, or is it just showing on the screen?
Oh, no, it's got turned off.
Oh, it's on. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's on now.
So I don't know if Keith is coming on tonight. He's modelled the days up as well, so it might be he's modelled the day up. I've got a nice one I'm writing at the moment, and that's we were saying about Afuna. Afuna wasn't a camp. It wasn't a POW camp. It was a interrogations.
Ronnie, you've got feedback.
Yeah. Have you got headphones, Theo?
Yeah, I will get it. Just a second.
Yes, that'll help because we're getting feedback. Afuna, that was an interrogation centre. It wasn't a POW camp. And the one I'm writing at the moment, Penny, Penny came on last time. She sent me loads of information on Afuna. Her dad, Aldwell, he was shot down. He was on HMS Illustrious, went down in the sea on a bombing raid on Andaman Island, Port Blair. I think I got it right, Port Blair, and he was captured. He was shot down. He was captured, and he was sent to Afuna. I don't know how we pronounce it, but I'll just call Afuna. And he was there from 40. He was shot down 44. He was there about 1.5 years. He was at Afuna, and that was it's quite good because it explains. And I've had a look at Mansell's site, and he's got quite a bit on about it. So I've got what was the American distance runner whose film was on lately, Unbroken? What was his name? Unbroken.
Don't know.
Zimmerman? Anyway, he was at the same place. So when you watch Unbroken, that is supposed to be Afuna. But Unbroken, that got a lot of bad press. The book is a lot better than the film. Anyway, that's quite interesting. So I'm doing that at the moment, in between adding people on the Roll of Honour. Right, anything else happened? April. Anything on April?
Done April. We did that last week.
No,
Yeah,
we're still in April.
Yeah, I think what we did say is that when we have the 2 meetings during a month, that we do like the first 2 years, perhaps on the first meeting, and the second 2 years on the second meeting, and then we wouldn't sort of run out of things perhaps to discuss. I don't know what yourselves. I mean, the only thing that I sort of thought about was obviously my dad had left Changi on April the 4th. So for my second part, like tonight, I would say that April the 10th was when Dad arrived in Saigon, and they were unloaded and instantly set to work. The go-downs on Saigon along the river are still there because my husband and I, we visited them 3 years ago. But the huts and that where they were actually camped aren't there. But what I did come across, because I did look through some of my dad's things today, was a description of the war camp, which is described as being most secret. And it was the designation of the camp. But I mean, there's a few things I'll just say what it says, because I'll never forget having been told that my dad was in the holiday camp. I don't think any prisoner who spends that long in prison for not having done a crime is none of that's a holiday camp. But it says that the number one, the camp zone is infested with mosquitoes, which I know, as my dad suffered from malaria very often. The prisoners are in a danger zone, surrounded by warehouses and yards with ammunition and gasoline. The barracks are wooden with mat sheds. The prisoners are living in close quarters. Sleeping accommodation is beds in rows on 3 tiers. It sounds almost like the ships that they travelled on, made up of planks. The width of space does not appear to be more than 5 feet, and I think they were lucky if they had 5 feet between them. There are no windows, but there are wide doors every 20 feet. The prisoners are not able to send letters home. Camp representatives are unable to correspond with the military or the protecting powers. Doctors and chaplains were captured with the men. Medicines are lacking. Some of us and French persons are sending clandestine means, mainly quinine, anti-diphtheria serum, iodine, ipecacuanha, cotton and gauzes. So they did have some supplies. But it was just interesting, that I found that today and read through that report. And I've got some of the diaries of some of the other men here that were there. Mm-hmm. How long after the first arrivals, Ronnie, did your dad go out to Saigon?
My dad went out February 45.
Right, so it was coming up to the end.
After the railway, because he came back from the railway the middle of 44, and then he was sent to Saigon. So he went to Saigon. And if you have a look at Dad's, I don't know if you've seen the map of Saigon camp.
Yeah, I've got it here. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've got it on here now. Yeah, I put it on his site, so that is actually on his page.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, the ones in between your dad going out and my dad going out, were the ones who went from the British battalion, who went from Sumatra to Burma, went along the railway, and then when the railway was finished, they were sent to Saigon overland. So they didn't go
Right.
back to Singapore; they went overland, which is they said it was a very boring trip that took a long time to get there. But no, that's.
I've got
So
something
that-
here
that
about escapes as well. I don't know if your dad ever told you that there were escapes earlier on. Because here I've got there are 3 attempts at escapes from Saigon, which amazes me because when we were there and we looked around, apart from the one side of the camp did head up onto the city, but the river and the other side of the river was just jungle. And it says that the 2 officers, a major and a doctor, tried to escape together with 8 orderlies. The orderlies returned, but the officers were made to dig their own graves and were then beheaded at the edge of each grave. But there was a second attempt was made by 7 orderlies. 4 escaped, 3 were shot while running away. And the third attempt was made by 10 orderlies 3 months after this was, or before this was done, and they actually managed to escape. So I don't know what sort of people he's describing as orderlies, because I wouldn't have thought any of the Brits would have managed to escape really, because they stuck out unless they could disguise themselves as French. But,
they had to fit in. Yeah, they had to fit in, didn't they? Because otherwise they'd be standing out. I mean, I've got an escape somewhere. Let me just find it.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
hello, Matt.
Hello, Barbara. Evening.
Hiya.
Yeah.
Right, Tim.
Yeah.
Ron.
Yeah. We've talked about that one before. That was from Soncura. So that was Soncura. But this one, I haven't really come across much. It was Pagani. Pagani escaped from the railway of death. I read it a long time ago, so I can't really tell you much about it. But he seemed to fit it in because he was the right colour. Can I say that? He was the right colour, so he was okay. He got away with it. Someone's had a haircut. Have you cut your
Just going to say.
I don't know about cut.
It's that time of year again. And he's
extreme, Matt. Okay.
Every year I have to have a brain scan, but I can't have a brain scan, so they put a electrode all over my head. So every year,
as a profession, though.
I have to.
Don't take it up as a profession because it doesn't. I wouldn't have it done. Mine's growing.
Basically, you go into a room and they say, "Here you are," and they give you a battery-powered shaver, and they go, "Can you just shave your head? We'll finish it off for you, and leave you about 20 minutes while you cut off your locks." And someone comes in with a razor, and then just looks all the rest, and they stick 42 different electrodes all over your head, and they stick a cap on top of it.
Yeah.
And then they set a machine on go and say, "Right, see you in an hour's time. You spend an hour there." Well, it does your brain. That's about it.
We've still got Theo on, but we
Have we?
have lost his
Pictures disappeared.
we've lost his picture, but he is on. So I hope you can still hear us, Theo.
I'd like to know what Theo's connection is because I've not met Theo before.
Yeah,
So
well, he did.
would Theo
he did
tell us?
explain it all.
He did.
Yeah,
He did
sorry.
say at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his dad was in Indonesia. I take it as Java or one of the, and then he was one of the Java parties to the railway. Where did he say he went from the railway?
Don't think he
I
did.
don't think he did. But no, that was. His dad went to Brazil. You know, his dad went to
To
Brazil.
escape the Russians.
Yeah,
Oh, I
because
see.
we were talking about Brazilian football because they left Brazil 1967.
There he is.
That was the
Oh, he's
year
back.
after, it was the year after the World Cup, Theo. So we
Oh,
won
okay.
that World Cup. That's why I remember Pele. And Pele Banks was in goal, and Pele was about 3 yards out, 2 to 3 yards out, and Banks pulled off a fantastic save. That was one of the best saves I've ever seen from Pele. Pele was a brilliant footballer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we won't go on to football. I'll talk all night about football. Yeah. So
I suppose you've mentioned Captain Tom already. Have you
Yes,
mentioned Captain
we have.
Tom? Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Because he was Burma,
yeah.
wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fabulous.
And we were saying I watched at dinner time. And he didn't have his jacket on with his medals. He just had a shirt on. But
He did this
Susie was
evening,
saying
though,
tonight
didn't he?
he had all his gear on again.
Nearly 9 million now.
What is his badge? What was his? Because I was trying to read what his badge said on his blazer.
Yeah, I couldn't see. There was just the two stars and the
and the other
the 19.
But I was trying to.
Pro medal.
It was his regiment,
Sure.
but I don't know which service he was in. Army, obviously, but I don't know what corps. But Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Regiment. But 9.5 million. I mean,
Because I thought you might know, Matt, with him being in Burma, that you might be more aware of.
There's a lot of Tom Moores. And a lot of Tom Moores come from Keighley. A lot of Tom Moores were in Burma.
Yeah, that's strange.
And I've even gone through the Burma Star memberships, and also a lot of Tom Moores were a member of the Burma Star. But none of them actually give information.
Oh.
I can't find his actual record. Right? All I could... Well... Thomas Moore, born April 30th, 1920. His mother's maiden name was Hurd, born in
30th
Keighley.
of April, because that's the one, isn't it?
Yeah. His mother's name was Hurd, born in Keighley, Yorkshire. Served Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Regiment from 1941 till 1946. That's all I've got. But he wasn't a captain then. He was a captain when he came out, but he didn't go in as a captain. But I can't find any promotion information at all. Nearest I can come is a warrant officer, which I think probably is him. But until I can get all the records, and there's so many. I think it was about 3.5 hours trawling through every record I could find this morning, and still I've got loads to go.
I'd
pinned my hopes on you finding him, Matt. There you go.
I will find him. I'll have him by tomorrow.
The other morning on Monday about the books, and I said it'd be awkward because when we run the book club, I have to post the books, and of course we can't get out, so that's impossible for me to post them. But Gillian's said she'll use Hermes. So she'll get in touch with Hermes, and I will then do the draw. Because if she get in touch with Hermes and we can deliver, I'll do the book draw and we can get it off in the post.
To Brazil.
Yeah, to Brazil.
Unfortunately, you probably Get
We
the
were
bit
saying
all
that
of
of
you,
reliability, the actual Hermes, not the
is
ones
it,
that they use these days.
Yeah, go on,
are
Theo.
all of you living in the UK? You're all from the UK?
We
Yeah,
We
are.
are,
we are.
yes.
Yeah.
We have
Okay.
we normally have
We,
one from Australia, but as
yeah,
well. But
but he
Well, we've
He's
got
in
doesn't
two
come
bed
in
on in
now.
the
Australia.
evening. He doesn't come on in
Yeah.
the evening because then it's his early
time
morning.
zones out.
So he only
Right.
does
Yeah.
it. He only comes on Sunday.
Monday.
Um, Sunday.
Oh, the next
Half
mornings.
past
meeting.
10 he comes on.
Yeah, Sunday mornings or Monday morning.
Yeah.
But Ray, we were saying about your pictures.
Yeah,
Now we're on record. We'll bring your pictures up. They're terrific pictures of Thailand. Ubon.
yeah, they're more or less at the time. Excuse me. More or less at the time of the early 1940s, shall we say. But bearing in mind that nothing much ever changes, so anything from 1920 through to 1950 will be, there'll be very little change really. But I came across these from a friend of mine in Thailand. His name is Chai Wat, and he forwarded these photos of Ubon from another Thai gentleman who I've not met, but I want to get in touch with him because this guy is on Facebook and he's got a lot of photographs of very old photographs of Thailand, and they're very interesting to see. I mean, I just selected, I think it was 16 or 17 that I thought were interesting from the point of view that it give you some sort of indication of what things were like in that time, particularly with the ones of Ubon, because that surprised me. I've seen some old buildings in Ubon, but I've not seen old buildings in photographs of that era, and it's amazing, really. You forget that there was no roads; it was just dirt, and there's children running about with bare feet. Well, yeah, and the space, and then some of the activities that they do, the fishing, for instance. I mean, that still goes on today. You do see people fishing like that today with the nets and throwing them round. The sugarcane press, I've not seen one like that before, but sugarcane is still grown in abundance. And one of my favourite drinks is a sugarcane juice, where they put it through, they put the cane, the sort of long sticks of sugarcane, probably 2 at a time, through a mangle, and the juice just falls down at this little chute into your pot, and they put this, repeat it 3 or 4 times, and you just get fresh sugarcane. It's beautiful. And they still do that.
They have this. They have this in Brazil. In Brazil, they have this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
You're coming through quite well from Brazil, Theo.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little delay, but not too much. I mean, we don't notice it too much with Martin in Australia, do we? But that's quite good pictures. You come through quite well.
Yeah, I'm happy.
So,
It works.
Yeah. But, yeah, so the pictures, Ray, if you can sort out, that would be nice to see more of them, if you can add some more.
Yeah.
Because
There's
they do
some,
look good.
There's some great portraits as well of people in villages. Not necessarily Ubon, but Thai people.
Sorry, it's Matt.
That Matt.
Yeah.
Moving the chairs. Yeah, there's some nice portraits as well. So over the next few weeks, I will sort of do small collections of, say, 16, 17, 20 photographs of a theme, and post them up there on Facebook, and then perhaps, as you suggest, Ronnie, we can upload them onto the website as well, which would be quite
It'd look
nice.
good if we could. That'd be nice to have them on.
They tend to get lost if they're on Facebook, don't they? I mean, you see them and then you can't find them again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's a job to go through. The only thing I can find is I just use the search. If I know I've put something on, I just put my name and use a search, and that finds all my posts up. But then you've got to look through them all to find the picture you wanted to see.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but no, to be honest, that's been ever so busy putting things on. I think people are at home and they keep sending me in saying, "Can you add so and so to the Roll of Honour?" Did you notice, Barbara? I did add a page for Alfred.
Yes.
Bill.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
really
I
good.
did add a page for
Yes.
Bill, and
Yes.
I got quite a bit of information on there, so so there was quite a bit added. Yeah. Tim, have you got anything?
We all owe so much to Bill Franklin for coming back from what he'd been through, and then continuing his research. You know.
Did you read the bit I put that he was flown? He was flown from where was he? Was he in Ubon?
No, he wasn't in Ubon. No, he was in Singapore all the time.
Oh yeah, no, he's in. No, he wasn't. He was in Blanking Mati. I thought it was Singapore, but he actually the island just off Singapore. He was sent there. He was there for 2 years, and so he was taken to Singapore from there, and then he was flown via Penang to Rangoon, and then on the boat home they stopped at Colombo, and he was talking to a nurse in Colombo, and he said to the nurse, you know, they were talking about it, and he said he was at St Mary's Hospital, and she said, oh yeah, they've been in the news lately. So he asked why, and because they've just come out with a new vaccine called penicillin. That was 1945. So that was when penicillin was first introduced.
There's a little story. There's a little story of penicillin at Ubon, because after the camp was liberated, as you probably know, they had to wait about 6 weeks before they were actually sent away from Ubon back to Bangkok. And so on the medical supplies that were dropped there was this newfangled drug called penicillin, and the doctors in the camp didn't know what to do with it, so they had to fly out another doctor from Bangkok to show them how to use it.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? Really?
I find it really strange that you know, when I grew up as a child, penicillin was widely accepted, you know, as being you know, an antibiotic, and when I heard about Alexander Fleming, you know, had died and passed on, and to think that Bill Franklin actually was contemporaneous with that man and actually worked with him, it makes you realise that it wasn't really that long ago, you know, that all these things were being developed. Now let's hope that they can get something for the coronavirus. So come back, Alexander Fleming. Maybe we need you again. But what a great man Bill Franklin was, and of course he won't get the memorial he deserves now, will he? Because of the all the news of the coronavirus and the deaths with that.
Another thing I found out.
He got the MBE, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bill,
he was 105, 103.
I think.
103.
I'm not 100% certain, but I think you might be entitled to a memorial service at Westminster Abbey as an MBE, if somebody organises it.
Let's hope he does. Yeah, he deserves it, doesn't he? Because he's only actually known. He's only ever known as Dr. Bill Franklin, MBE. It doesn't mention his other wartime things. You know, those grades, and it doesn't mention his doctorates either. So it's just Bill Franklin, MBE. So there you go.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a piece of paper wide enough to get all those on.
It could well be, Ray. I think you're right there. Yeah.
When I was trying to gain the information on him, and I couldn't really find much in the stuff they'd put on this last 2 weeks. about the war. It's only when I went into a book, I've put the name of the book on his site, and that is on the web, and I managed to find a lot out. When he was in Changi, they had a cricket match, and he was captain of his team, and the opposition captain was Weary, Dr. Weary, the Australian.
Yeah.
And both of them
Dunlop.
were unknown at the Dunlop. Both of them were unknown at the time, and they both of them came out to be, well-known doctors.
Because we were talking about cricket matches the other day, weren't we? And then Cess Lowry put on a post on Facebook about the cricket matches, didn't he? And he wasn't part of our talk
He
the
put on the
other
one
day.
about
But,
Chiang Kai. He put
that's
on the
it,
one
yeah.
about Chiang
But
Kai,
it was,
and I had already put on the one about. God, I got cramp. I put on the one about the ashes in Chang, which Bix sent me. He sent me because his dad was actually in the match.
Yeah.
And
Can
so,
I just
yeah.
mention that we've actually lost another FIPO today? I don't know if any of you saw it pop up on Facebook. We lost Jim Coston, something like that, the other day on Sunday. He was aged 102, and sadly another one today has passed away. And off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was, but that's two we've lost within a few days. And Bill, of course.
Yeah. Dr. Franklin's boy said that was coronavirus. He said he did die of coronavirus.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
108.
that's so sad.
Yeah. All the work he done
Theo,
on allergies. And all the work he did
Theo,
on allergies. He died
have
there.
you got any other contacts in Brazil that you keep in touch with? You might have said all this earlier. Sorry if I'm getting you to repeat it. But
No, I have I have obviously Dutch friends.
Yeah.
There's one person, and she was a child when they were in Indonesia.
yes, was that Elizabeth?
Yeah. Excuse me?
Elizabeth Van Kampen? No.
No. She's I forgot her last name. There's a Dutch community not too far away from. I live in São Paulo.
Oh
there's a
right.
Dutch
Oh sorry.
community-
Yeah, Elizabeth
Yeah.
is in Holland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And my sister, I think she's also part of this group, but she lives in Holland.
Yeah. Mm.
There are not too many Dutch people here in Brazil.
I know.
Lots of British. The British were here for a long time. I mean, they played an important role in Brazil in the past.
Mhm.
And all the clubs, the infrastructure, everything was made by the British a long time ago.
Yeah.
Mm.
You've got Dutch Guiana just down the road.
Excuse me?
You've got Dutch Guiana just down the road.
Yeah.
Sophie,
Yeah.
have
Theo,
you got,
can
have
I
you
ask?
got anything? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Not really. No, April. Yeah, no, not really. So just a bit busy, sort of continuing working, and at the moment. And if I get sort of down moment, I keep thinking, what would my dad say? He'd say, "Come on, got to keep going on." Yeah, or if people are being annoying or something, and you think, oh. Yeah,
Tim?
I was just thinking, yeah.
Tim, have you got anything?
Well, I'd just like to ask Theo, where was your dad captured?
He was captured in Indonesia.
Yeah, where? But was
And
it
then he
Java
was-
or Sumatra? In Java.
I think I'm not so sure. I think could be Java.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure, but I know he went first to Singapore,
Mm.
and from Singapore they went to Thailand. He was at the Spring Camp. The camp that he was
All right.
based was called Spring Camp. This I know.
Right. That on the charity members, which you must be a member of, in the document, if you look up, What's it under, Ronnie? Is it Dutch East Indies? Do you put it under all Netherlands East Indies? Is it in the document
Yes.
section? There's a
Where?
there's a
Which?
Oh,
Which?
yeah. What in
there's a
in
big file there
yeah,
which has all got all the Dutch army in it. Was he
yeah.
army?
Okay.
Was he in the army?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in the army. Well, actually, he was there. He was working for a company, but then when the war started, then he had to join the army. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his name's sure to be in this file somewhere
What
because
what
it's
was
got everyone.
his what his what's your surname? I'm terrible at this.
No, my name is my last name is
Yeah.
Vanderloo. Vanderloo. Yeah.
Just a minute.
And my father had the same name. Yeah. Actually, his brother was also there. His brother,
Oh.
they stayed together. Yeah.
Do you know
But his
what were
brother
their
never-
initials?
Excuse me?
What were their initials, Theo? What were their initials? Your dad and his brother.
TH, like mine, Theodore.
Oh, he was Theo as well.
Yeah, right.
And
Okay,
what
send
was
me
your
chat.
uncle?
I can send you. That was my father's name.
Yeah, send
This
me
was
all
my
the info,
uncle's.
and then I'll put a page on for him, Theo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just had a look in the Java index, and I've got a lot of Van Ders, but I haven't got a Vanderloo.
I
but
think
I'll-
you probably have to look under Loo, Loo, probably.
yeah,
Because
let
it's
me
spelled
have a look.
separately. Yeah.
Yeah, let me have a look under there.
Theo, while still looking, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
I've
sure.
been doing a lot of research of a Japanese POW camp in Ubon, which is in northeast Thailand, and there were 1,500 Dutch prisoners held at Ubon, and I'm having a lot of difficulty in finding out Dutch records. I don't know, just lists of names or whatever. Have you any advice on how I could
Well, yeah.
expand
I
this?
will check for you. Obviously in Holland they also have these memorial events every year, and I will check on their website and see if I can find something, and I'll let you know. Well, where can I find your contact information, Ray? Where can I find it? Are you on the Facebook as well?
Yeah, I'm on the Facebook,
Yes.
so
Okay.
you should
Okay.
find something
What
on
was
there.
his,
Can send me through Messenger.
Yeah.
I've got a Lou, and I've got a th.j.m.
That's my father.
That's your father.
Till-
I've got him. I've got him, and he was soldier info. I think that's a private in Britain, and
Sold
he was in the Java Party 14. So he
Okay.
was Java Party 14. Left Java the 10th of the 2nd, 43, and he went to Singapore. And then later I can find out where he went from there. But he went up. We know he went up to. But he was in
Yeah.
Java Party 14.
Okay.
But if you
I'll
send
have
me,
yeah. I'll
send me
look.
what
I'm
you've
looking
got,
for his
and then-
information. Yeah. Okay. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, and then I can find out where he was on the railway.
I
If it's
think
Java
if
Party-
I'm not
just a
mistaken,
minute, I'll just.
there was a group called Group H. Is that it? Group H?
Oh, is it?
H-Force.
Well, no, he went in.
H Force.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
What
he was there.
No,
Yeah.
he would have been in D Force if that was the second month.
Yeah.
43. He would have been in D Force. H Force was the 5th month. So that wouldn't have been H Force. That would have been D Force. Unless he spent 3 months at Singapore, which he could have done.
He spent. That could be. I know he stayed in Singapore for a while. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that could have been if he stayed because he got to Singapore on the 10th of the 2nd.
Put the lights on.
So if he was in H-Force, he must have been there 3 months. 3 months, because H-Force went up in May, which was the 5th month. Let me just find.
I'm looking here.
Java parties.
You know, there's another. There's a guy called, I don't know if you know, Lutz Velmans. You know him? Let me see. Are you watching the chat box? I'll send it.
I'm terrible. Yeah, I'm terrible on names. But send me the and then.
Yeah, if you see him, he wrote a book. I read his book, and I also wrote to him. And you can see it on Amazon. Let me see. He stayed. I wrote him a long time ago, and he stayed actually more or less in the same group as my father. He told me they were separated, like he said like cocoons, right? Like they were always a group of the same people together, and so his story was very similar to my father's story, but he thinks that he was close to my father, but not in the same group. That's what he told me.
Well, I'm just looking up Java Party 14,
Yep.
And they had four lots of Java Party 14 went up the railway, and one went to Japan. Now the last one went the 5th month, which would be the H-Force, and there was only 16 in that party. So there was only 16 from Java Party 14 who went up on the 5th. So if he was in H-Force, that would have been the one he went up in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which was the 6th of the 5th. So, yeah. Anyway, we've gone over the time. Is there anything anyone wants to say before we shut down? Because it's been a good meeting. We've gone through a lot. Theo, definitely send me the information.
Yeah, I will type my email. You can get my email here. Let me see. Can you see it? Yeah, that's my email. So we can be in touch. I'll send you the information. Yeah,
if you put it, you can send it to me on Messenger.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat box. Can in the blue jeans you can there's a chat box. If you click on the chat box,
it disappears quite quickly though. It flashes up and then disappears.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, message it to me, Theo. That's the easiest way from Facebook.
Yeah.
If you message me, and then I'll have it so I can get in touch with you. Then we can sort out. Is there anything else anyone wants to discuss? No.
Next meetings, Ronnie, before you go.
Next meetings before I go. Oh, well, that's next Monday. Next Monday.
Oh
at 10
yeah.
o'clock.
No, but we need our May dates.
That's just a get-together one. Now, next month, May. Well, we could do it the 3rd or the 10th. Which one do we prefer? The 3rd.
The 3rd
or
of bank
10th?
holiday. Not it makes any difference.
Well, let's say the 10th.
Yeah. The 8th is now the bank holiday, Tim, because it's VE Day. They moved that
on a Sunday,
holiday.
Right?
Yeah, that's Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and then the midweek one will be the 20th.
So 10 o'clock in the morning. What time is it now?
That's British summertime.
That's UK time. So you'll have to work out where you're on.
We're
yes,
2015 at the moment here.
Yeah. So right, that's then 2 o'clock in Brazil. Okay.
Right. So that one is the 10th, and then on the 20th, that will be the Wednesday meeting, like today, at 7 o'clock. Okay, is that all right with everyone?
Which day is that?
That's Wednesday the 20th.
Okay.
7
Same
o'clock.
time?
We have
What
one.
time?
That's
1900.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock our time.
Yeah.
So you
So
came
that-
in just slightly
3. Yeah, 3. Yeah,
after.
Yeah.
So that
yeah, 3
the
o'clock.
same as
Yeah.
you did tonight. The same as you did
Yeah.
tonight. Anyway, I'll stop the record now. Okay.